We are back on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio, News Talk, 1180, 1230, KGEO, 1410 KERI, and now in New Mexico on 1000 KKIM. Our guest by phone, Erik Rush, the man who broke the Reverend Wright story 6 long years ago.
You know, Erik, you mentioned that it's the uninformed voters that lean towards Obama. But in my travels, I talk to college students, and I find out that a lot of the college students vote for Obama. And when I ask them why, they really don't have a good reason.
That is a very good point. You know, I interact with a lot of people these days, and a lot of, a certain amount of arguments, and a certain percentage of them are college students or people of that age group who, some of them attack me, some of them just challenge me. And what I found is that I think that what they've done with the educational system, straight through from the grade school through college, which of course has been dominated by the left for a long time, the critical thinking has been bred out of these people, and you said they can't tell you why, and that's really because they don't know why. They can just basically regurgitate this party line rhetoric that they've been fed as to why, the left is good and the right is bad, but they can't really articulate it for you because they don't know why. It really is pretty sad, and it's not as though they're too stupid to comprehend. It's just that they've never been given the opportunity to do so.
Well, you know what, another interesting point when you look at those college students, as they grow up, they get married, they have kids and get a career, their attitudes change, which I find interesting as well.
Well, yeah, a lot of people's attitudes change. Like Churchill was saying, I had said reportedly, if you're not a conservative by the time you're 40, you have no mind, or something along those lines. But in the practical sense, definitely people's opinions can't help but changing unless they're ideologues. There are a lot of people who are ideologues and have been that way their entire adult life, and they'll cling to the ideology no matter what. But the vast majority of Americans are neither left or right ideologues, and they tend to react to circumstances, which is one of the reasons that the pocketbook always used to drive elections, which is why they've really worked on that PR, that public perception of Obama in order to get him reelected, because you couldn't have people blaming him for the way things were or perceiving things as being really that bad and expect him to get reelected. And so what they did was basically spun what he had done, the blame game largely, and then, I haven't had enough time yet. You give me another 4 years and I can do it. And people said, okay. Right.
Yeah, blindly. The two of you bringing this up reminds me of the old comment, the definition of a conservative is a liberal who hasn't been mugged yet. So... And
I like that one.
And it really depends on who you're being mugged by, the government or, an individual. You posted a great article the other day on Benghazi, and Clay and I both spent some time in the military, and that's one of those maddening subjects. Do you feel there was a cover-up, and there is a cover-up going on?
Well, I have as much said, or as much as said, that I believe and that... The raid was on Benghazi was staged in order to get rid of the evidence of the gun running operation that we now know existed. That people laughed at us when we said back then it was going on, but now it's common knowledge that it was going on, and now they're doing it openly and all of that. But there were possibly other things we don't know about that Obama wanted to go away, and I believe that is why the raid ensued. Now, I realize that's kind of a serious charge to make, but things like that don't really bother me. I can't go as far as to say that he wanted Chris Stevens and any of the other people who died dead. But, of course, that's always a possibility. Chris Stevens was obviously hip deep in whatever was going on over there, and I don't know what his position was, what his relationship was with the Obama administration, whether it had deteriorated or not. However, whether you look at it as though it was something that was staged for political purposes, or whether they basically ignored it for political expediency or because they were incompetent, they obviously have obfuscated and obstructed justice, and even if it was just ineptitude, their comportment has just been abysmal, if not criminal, and this stuff really, I mean, there are so many, I know you guys are on the same page as I am, the collective cheer that would go up if just half of this stuff was getting out and was being seriously addressed in a political way publicly.
It's a little maddening when you look at this. We're having a conversation with author-speaker Erik Rush. Boston, a good segue here. I actually ran that marathon in the 70s. And you had mentioned in an article something about a Saudi connection and Obama's burying that connection. Can you elaborate a little bit on that?
Well, yeah, it's common knowledge in as much as a lot of conservatives know it, but other people don't because the press won't touch it, but that Obama's postgraduate education was funded in a large degree by a Saudi interest, and he's got connections with the Saudis. Of course, the American government has been in bed with the Saudis to the consternation of a lot of conservatives for a long, long time. But Obama in particular has had a close relationship with them. And now there was this young Saudi national who was supposedly injured in the Boston bombing, who they were going to deport for reasons that they didn't want to say, and then they said, well, no, we're not deporting him, he's just leaving to go be with his family, and that's basically when they really started obfuscating. But the fact is that, this kid, starting when he was 16, came to this country, this Saudi kid. We don't know what his family background is. It's been rumored that he's, from a prominent family, but he has visited the White House starting when he was 16 in 2009 more than once. There are a lot of rumors floating around as to who he could be specifically. These have not been substantiated, and of course the administration is doing everything it can to keep us from finding out. We don't know if they've deported him, if they haven't deported him, and of course who he is. But what is obvious is that the relationship is being covered up.
Now, bear with me here. You lost me there. So, in other words, the guy that they're involved with, relationship-wise, has actually visited the White House?
Yes.
Now, the Saudi kid who they grabbed in the beginning, who they have pictures of in the hospital with Michelle Obama and all of these people, the Obamas have a relationship with him. We don't know if he has a relationship with the bombers, but there is reason to believe that it is a possibility, given the fact that all of these guys were Islamic, given the fact that this kid was in Boston. There are a few other factors that come into play that have not been investigated yet, but a lot of these people, and by these people I mean that within the Islamic community in a given area, tend to know each other because their community, I mean, it's not like there's, millions of people in one area. So the likelihood, just statistically speaking, that this kid knew the bombers is pretty high. That's being investigated. I don't really have anything on that, but he was in Boston. He was grabbed at the scene within minutes of this having happened. He was in the proximity of the bombers. He was not photographed with them, but it is definite that he has a relationship with the Obamas. We just don't know what it is.
Well, I understand that Syria also warned us that these two brothers were going to do something in a terrorist nature. And
Syria,
yeah. Also, this past Wednesday, or the May 1st, I understand they arrested 3 more people in relationship to the bombing in Boston. So things are moving forward.
Yes, they have, and that is going to continue to develop, as are these other points of what the relationship is, because these things don't happen in a vacuum, despite the fact that the administration is doing its best damage control, and it is being underwritten by the mainstream press, so to speak. There are people who are providing bits of information, and I think that the truth will come out, whether it's big enough that the press winds up having to run with it, and whether it hurts in the administration remains to be seen. Sort of like Benghazi, they can come out with a lot of different things, but if the press isn't beholden to run with it and get it out to enough Americans to really call for action, then nothing happens.
Well, I don't want to hurt anybody or the administration. I just want to get to the bottom of this.
Well, it would really be nice. Unfortunately, I don't think anybody really wants to, as you said, hurt the administration. Unfortunately, if hurting the administration because it's hurting the country is something that it has to be done in a practical sense, we have to take the opportunities as they come, without necessarily looking for things that are going to hurt the administration per se.
Actually, yeah. Erik, whenever we have you on, we run out of time, and I really, really enjoy having you on. Can you give our listeners your website, because there's so much valuable information on it?
Yes, you can find me at erikrush.com, ERIKRUSH.com, and there's links to my weekly columns on WorldNet Daily and Canada Free Press, and my social media links and email and all that good stuff. Great.
Erik, thank you so much for giving us the time today, and we'd love to have you back again soon.
Thank you very much. God bless and take care.
God bless. We'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio News Talk 1180.